3,000 mile a year Jeep Cherokee. We're going to replace the hard line going to the passenger's front brake line, the soft brake line. We're also going to replace the hard line going to the rear axle, as they're both bad. They both have leaks. Let's get started. Lines are blown out, so I'm going to be taking them off. I just heated this joint up a little bit, wire wheel it, and hopefully break those lines free. I also have replacement soft lines at the caliper. A lot of times these lines want to turn. I'm trying to replace these without replacing the hard lines. You're going to run into a bit of problems. Help to hold the lines, but you still run risk of twisting them off and breaking them, which he might be on his way to doing. If I'm lucky, it doesn't, but I'm going to have to replace this hard line anyway. There we go. Do yourself a massive favor, and if you can, turn the wheels so that everything's facing you. It does make it easier. Break this free. You do not need to do these things if you're just doing a brake job, but replacing the lines requires more work. Fluid pass through, and there's normally copper washers on both sides. And put the new ones on. So brake line snakes down to the frame, and up and over, back along the firewall. Frame. The replacement line for the passenger side front is 2 pieces. And it uses a union, which I'm not totally enthused about, but with the way it's routed, I'll never get it out of here as one piece. Actually, this line goes to the driver's side. What? So it looks like the easiest way to use this one is likely going to be to try to fish it up through the bottom through here, which might not be the greatest idea. Snake it back around up through here, but I don't think it's going to work. We'll see. It wasn't fun, but I was able to get the line up and in place through the bottom up and through here. I'm going to kind of get the other line. It goes through that hole up and get the fitting in place, at least loosely, a union, because I'm probably not going to be able to get to it once I start getting stuff bolted in. Long story short, it's going to go up and through there. It's going to be super easy to see this. It's extremely fun. I got the line in. I'm going to connect it where it is. Connect it to where the tape is. The crush washers that came with the replacement soft brake line for the front axle are too thin and were crushing, so I ended up buying a kit of sticker washers from Dorman. Just as a quick visual reference, that's how thin the ones that came with the brake line are. And that's what came in the Dorman replacement pack. I'm not trying to bleed the brakes. I'm simply trying to get pressure through the new line to see if there's any leaks like the last couple times, those smaller washers. So hopefully all this works. I've gotten so gun shy with those other washers. It doesn't appear that it's leaking now. That would be nice. There's no leaks at the new fitting with the new line, the new hard line. That may be somewhat hard to see, but there's the union. There's no leaks at the union. No leaks at the new fitting at the portioning valve. Well, I've got it up in the air. I'm going to start by pulling the brake line to the portioning valve and the master cylinder, and then work my way back to the axle. The brake line is that real crusty bit. It kind of snakes its way around and through the frame. And this is probably going to be pretty hard to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to try. You have to be gentle because you don't want to damage anything. And that is the extremely crusty fitting, which I can't seem to get the camera to focus on. It goes back to the soft line to the rear axle. master proportioning valve to the, I'm assuming the rear axle, but I'll know more when I get it under there, but I'm gonna have to straighten it first. And gently try to work this bend out in small sections. Trying to make sure that I don't kink them, and then I'll have to fiddle with it as we go. I've got the brake line mostly routed to the rear. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to put it on its clips. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in the way, and I don't necessarily know if I want to upset the apple cart on everything. Sitting, I've got it snaked through into the factory clips. I made a small rub strip for the one spot on the frame I can't do anything about, and put zip ties on stuff that where the clips had broken. So this little piece of line goes from the rear liner just installed up to the proportioning valve, which is good because I thought I was going to have to really do some funny stuff to it. Which means what I took out was already a replacement system. If that's the same piece as this. Both the brake lines are on. It's fitting right here. We did it with a crow's foot and a wrench on the bottom. I'm not saying you need it, but it definitely makes life easier. I went to bleed the rear brakes last night and found that my bleeder screws were stuck in place, so I'm going to try a solution I've seen on YouTube for calipers and see if it'll work on drums as well. I took and snipped the steel rivet off, the stem off. I already stuck it in the brake bleeder on the axle. Snip this portion off like that and stick it in the bleeder. Give it a couple heat cycles and hopefully it'll break free. 3 heat cycles. There's a cooling, and then hopefully this will come free. Yes. Whew, good. There's our jammed up bleeder screw. Push a little fluid through the system and try to get a little bit of the air out. Make it a little bit easier to bleed it. And put our new screw in. Or hopefully put our new screw in. Do this to the driver's side as well because I don't want to get halfway through the job and have to replace a wheel cylinder on this one side, because if you're going to do it, you really got to do them both. So that was install the rivet into the body of the bleeder screw, apply heat and cooling 3 times, and then it broke loose. I got both the bleeder screws free and new ones on. I'm going to, I don't have a flare wrench for that size, so I'm going to use my little one-man bleeding thing. Let's see how it works. It worked decent on my last vehicle that I tried it on. I will likely go back with a friend. and do it a little bit more accurately. Two full bleed cycles later, tighten everything up, no hair that I could see, threw the cap back on it. So we should be good to go on the rear. I'm going to finish up on the other side, and then I'll throw the tires back on and lift the front and bleed the front brakes. And there's both of the bleeders from the rear removed. The trick worked quite well. I'll link the video I found it on in the comments. Give it one more cycle and this side should be good. I'd already done a couple before, but it was raining, so didn't want to try to film. The belt's going to be the next thing that we fix, but it started raining, so all I'm going to do is push it better. All I'm going to do is run it back and forth, coming down the driveway a little bit, make sure the brakes work. Weather doesn't help. Squeaking does drive me crazy. There's parts to fix it, but the brakes do work for the first time since I bought it.